stakes are so high on both sides. If we get this wrong, it's very likely that we become extinct. If we get this right, it's very likely we live in utopia. Getting it right is really, really, really hard. So let's pause for the time being, take some time, and let's try to get it right.
What's up, everybody? Today I've got a well-known, he's a master of a few different trades, actually. Master of poker is made, I estimate, like it's no longer online, but for sure over 10 million from online. He's a broadcaster as well in the poker world. He's also, singing, making music albums apparently, and he's had a lot of experience in the business space and investing, crypto, and then done a lot of great stuff overall. It just had success in many different places. Kane, what's going on?
What's up, Jungle? Thanks for having me on. It's a little bit of a high estimate for online, but I'll take it. I think I was probably just shy of the 8-figure mark.
Well, like, who cares? Like, just the casual 8 million or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I just thought you were one of the biggest winners on Full Tilt back in the day, and on I would think on PokerStars too. Certainly, I've always seen you playing nosebleeds. I remember even as I was coming up, I saw you sitting at like the highest stakes, and apparently you're playing 501k with Guy La Liberté, which I want to get into in a moment. I also want to mention, by the way, guys, Kane's now focused his capabilities on stopping AI, which might just kill us all in 10 years or whatever. But we'll figure it out. We're figuring it out. Here's where it all starts. It's the grassroots. It's where it all begins.
It could, and these timetables are all being moved forward, Jungle. So whereas people who were worried about X risk from AI a couple years ago were saying, well, in the 2040s or 2050s, now people are saying we might have AGI before 2030, which is crazy. AGI being artificial general intelligence.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, people probably don't know what that is. Now I've started reading about it myself. I've read a lot of interesting things, but it basically, we'll get to it in a second. But it seems like a case for Kane Kalas.
Kane Kalas.
Kane Kalas. Yeah. Kane Kalas case. All right, that's even better. I should have known how to pronounce your name. But anyway, Real Heaven. So, tell us a bit about the super high stakes. You're also, to my knowledge, and at least according to the internet, you're the biggest winner. You've won the biggest pot on that's recorded online of 2.18 million is the number, I believe. Is that correct?
So 2.18 million was the biggest televised live poker hand when I won it in 2018 at Triton. I think since then there may have been one or two larger hands that have been won, but at least for some period of time, I had won the largest televised poker hand in the world at Triton in 2018. That was against Jason Kuhn, and it was a cool experience. I actually broadcast that whole Triton series, and The only way I was able to get a seat in the game was because when they asked me to commentate, we were talking about compensation, and one of the things that I wanted was, if I were going to broadcast the whole series, I wanted a seat at the big game at the end. And you and I were actually at that table together, Jungle.
Yeah, I forgot the hand though. I forget what happened.
It was kind of weird. Somebody opened, I forget who, but Kuhn opened, and then Badzikowski 3-bet. Badzikowski called, and then I 3-bet out of the small blind in a 3-blind game with pocket tens. So Kuhn opened, Badzikowski calls, I 3-bet tens. Kuhn 4-bets with ace queen offsuit. Badzikowski folds, I call my tens, and then it comes low, like 3, 5, 6, check, bet, call, turn 10, which was nice, check, bet, call, river ace, check, he value bets all in with ace queen, and I snap.
Oh, that's nice. That's convenient. Yeah, there you go. It's a really huge one. Speaking of broadcaster, I actually look like a broadcaster right now. At least this is how I imagine broadcasters look, with the headphones and all of that.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take it.
You got the slick back hair too. You look more professional than me. You are more professional than me, I think. Matter of fact, I need more professionalism. I've got a microphone here, but it's missing a leg. So that's but it's a good microphone. I just need to find the leg, but jungle man problems. So yeah, I admire your professionalism. Good job.
Thanks.
I thought it'd be cool to also talk about how you ascended in the stakes and a little bit about your background history. I understand your dad also was famous commentator, broadcaster, and your brother is well known in the space as well. Did they have a big impact on your life? Are you guys close?
Oh yeah, so it was a huge impact on my life growing up at the ballpark with my dad. He was a broadcaster for the Philadelphia Phillies for 38 seasons. He's in the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame for excellence in sportscasting, and he was a voice of NFL films for many years. John Facenda was the first voice of NFL films, and then my father did it after him. My father passed away in 2009, but what was amazing is the Phillies won the World Series in 2008, and he got to make that call, which was so special to him because the Phillies hadn't been a good team for many years before that, but my dad was just such an optimist about it, and he just loved what he did. And so I'd say the biggest impact that my father had on me was really two things. I mean, he instilled in me a love of sports, a love of baseball, a love of broadcasting and commentary, which I've then taken into poker, but also I got to observe what it was like to be around somebody who just actually loved what they did for a living. Not somebody who was working for the paycheck, but somebody who just loved to get up and go to work every day. And in fact, there was one point where my mother told my father, listen, Harry, you haven't gotten a raise in forever. You're underpaid. You're a Hall of Fame broadcaster now. You need to play hardball a little bit with the Phillies. And if it were up to him, my dad didn't care. My dad was just happy to be doing what he was doing. So they got a new agent. The agent told my dad, the only thing that you need to do is not talk to the Phillies. My dad said, okay, no problem. And it just kind of went on. And the Phillies weren't contacting him. And I think they kind of knew that my dad would, he just loved what he did. And he'd eventually come around. And it became a big story in the press and in the media. Oh, is Kalas coming back? What's going on? And it was just making my dad so depressed to not have a contract for next year. And finally, the head of the Phillies called up my father and said, Harry, let's get together. Let's not discuss business. I just miss you as a friend. They got together. They had a couple drinks. And a couple minutes later, my dad was like, well, to be honest, I would work for the Phillies for free. And that's not the best negotiating position when you're looking for a raise. They agreed on some, type of small raise, and my dad took the position back. But the point of the story is that he would have worked for free, and he just loved what he did, and it was such a cool thing to observe that growing up. Because if as the saying goes, if you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life.
Well, yeah, I mean. It's definitely important to love what you do. I would think that the ideal situation is they pay him his true value's worth, and he doesn't have to ask for it, right? Or he gets his payment somehow. It seems like not really right to not pay somebody because they love what they do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that seems manipulative, I would think.
Well, I mean, listen, the Phillies are like any other organization. They're a business, and with their players, with their broadcasters, with everybody on their staff, they're trying to negotiate for the best price. And the better contract they get with my dad or with whatever other player, they're able to have a better team and a better roster, and they're able to build the organization better. So I understand, and it's my father's responsibility to negotiate on his own behalf. And by any means, nobody would say that we were struggling. My father was making a very reasonable salary. It was just, from what he understood, or from what my mother understood anyway, it was just less than other Hall of Fame sportscasters. But to be honest, that wasn't important to my dad. And so, what's amazing is that he got to do for 38 years the thing that he loved, and for the team that that he loved, because he actually was offered a position that paid more, not to do play-by-play, but rather to be like on camera talking about baseball. And when I say more, it was substantially more. And he declined because he just loved, one, doing play-by-play. Two, he loved the Phillies organization. Three, he loved the Phillies fans. I mean, he was just a Philadelphia guy.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I'm glad it worked out for him. I mean, I still think they should probably like make sure he's well compensated. But yeah, I mean, he does have to figure. You know, he does have to defend himself at the end of the day. I would think. I mean, I have other thoughts on that, but it goes into moral philosophy or whatever. But I understand you also sang for the opening Phillies game. I don't know which one. But I know you sang like publicly in front of like a huge audience and all of that, which is quite an impressive feat. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I sing at every Phillies home opener in Philadelphia, the first home game that the Phillies play in Philadelphia every season. I've done that for the past 8 seasons. Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Sold out crowds the past couple years anyway, which means 48,000 people or so, 48,000 people. And last year, so this year, the Phillies made it to the NLCS, but they did not make the World Series. They lost to the Diamondbacks in the National League Championship Series. I sang at Game 1 of that, which was totally insane. The Phillies ended up winning that game, but then we lost by the end of the series. And last year, the Phillies made it to the World Series, and I got a chance to sing God Bless America at the World Series, which was obviously insane. I mean, there's no other experience like singing at the World Series Game 5 in front of 48,000 people on the field in Philadelphia, with everybody they're just rooting for the same thing as you, which was to take down the Astros. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. We lost to the Astros in that World Series, but it was just such a surreal experience.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Holy shit, you're like doing some massive things.
Yeah, man, it was cool. It was humbling. It was cool. I had a chance many years ago to sing at an NLCS game. I believe we were playing the Cardinals, where I sang God Bless America, and Taylor Swift sang the National Anthem, which was interesting and cool. It was like after she released her first album, and she wasn't really as well known as she is today. But yeah, I've been involved in singing at Phillies games and sporting events in general for quite a long time, singing the National Anthem and God Bless America.
Oh, awesome! Well, that's insane. Yeah, that's a really that's a great accomplishment, especially on top of like what you've done in poker. So you really succeeded. Yeah, you're like killing it in multiple different places. I understand.
Is that something you would do, Jungle, if the Vegas Golden Knights asked you to come sing the National Anthem? You think you could pull it off?
I would, but I would need a lot of practice first. I'm not currently working on the singing, and I think in that specific way, I'm shy, but I do have some musical talent, as it turns out. Now, most people don't know. I like to public speak, actually, so work on that. I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be a real long time before I sing in front of anyone.
Do you play? You said you have musical talent. Do you play an instrument? Or?
I played piano for 5 years. Yeah, I was pretty talented at it, but I never really worked at it. I'm like good with music in general, I would say. Like or at least in school I was, I should say. There's been talks of a poker band coming together, by the way. There might be some poker entertainers.
Really?
There's some people that are really good at stuff. Yeah, like I was talking to Benny Glazer the other day, and he said he was saying how he's like really good at the guitar, like really good at the guitar.
Really?
Like,
how did I not know that? Benny's a friend, and I didn't even have any idea.
That's so wild. Yeah, well he can play like really hard solos that you hear in like underground music, from like virtuosos and things like that. Basically, he's effectively a virtuoso.
That's insane.
Then he should team up
Well, yeah, hit me up about the band. If they need a jazz or classical vocalist, then I'm your guy. It
All
sounds
right.
like he might be doing a little more like, I don't know, Led Zeppelin or Kiss or something. I'm not sure. I'm not quite a screamer vocally, but I'm sure we could
Uh,
figure something out.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. It seems like he was into multiple different things, so I'm sure there's lots of crossover. Like he's also making some stuff for progressive rock and things like that too. So I guess that's like kind of in that area. Anyway, well, I know you're releasing some albums. You've released a couple actually. Like you've released, I know High Hopes was one. What's the other one called?
So
I think it's
that's it.
two.
No, just one. High Hopes. I
Oh,
released it
I think it was
earlier
two.
this year in April. Here's the cover to the album. You could find it. First of all, you could stream it anywhere where you stream your music on Spotify, Apple Music, just wherever you stream your music. But you can also purchase the album on KaneKalas.com. I believe there's
Mm-hmm.
still a couple of copies left on Amazon. You can get it in the CD or the vinyl form when you purchase a hard copy. The cool thing about that is, if you purchase the album, especially if you knew my father, you're from Philadelphia, it's dedicated to my father and the city of Philadelphia, and you'll get a little booklet, and inside it goes over exactly how each piece is relevant to my father or to the city of Philadelphia. So it's really a tribute to my dad and to the city of Philadelphia, and it's a cover album of standards. So these are songs that you're going to be familiar with if you listen to any Sinatra or any jazz like that. Luck Be a Lady is on there. You Make Me
Mm-hmm.
Feel So Young. Songs like that, and then also, it's not just kind of copying those arrangements that have been done. These are all unique arrangements, so we really put a cool, unique twist and spin on these things on standards like Street Where You Live, and there's a really cool version of On the Way to Cape May on there. And you could check out, I got a couple of music videos for the album. You could check that out
Oh,
on
really? Oh,
my,
shit.
yeah, you can check that out on my YouTube page. There's a music video for On the Street Where You Live, as well as I've Never Been in Love Before. And I think both of them turned out great, so make sure you check those out.
Oh, awesome. We've got a music artist in the poker world now. Oh, shit. Like a legit one. Oh. Yeah, there's no, I guess there's no, I don't know if there's any modern day, people that are influenced that much by Frank Sinatra. So there might be like a good niche for it. I don't know a ton of that about.
I would say
genre.
Bublé is probably the closest. Or he and Harry Connick Jr. are probably like the closest things we got to a modern day Sinatra. And
Oh,
Kane
okay.
Kalas.
And Kane Kalas. You can't forget about Kane Kalas,
Yeah.
rising star. All right. I find it pretty awesome. Like it's the poker needs more spice to it. You're adding lots of spice. You're like a different kind of spice than me too. Totally different
Yeah.
style.
Slightly different flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that you are also involved in dealing with. Actually, you know what? You know what we didn't talk about? We didn't talk about how you got so good at poker in the first place, and how you and like what your philosophy with all that is. And yeah, because I understand you like kind of annihilated for a long time. I do think really one of your skills is professionalism, and I think that that's something that a lot of poker players can learn from you. Do you want to talk about how you do all that, and was that a big part of your success in poker?
Yeah. So for me, I always looked at poker as a business, and I always understood, even from a young age, like the importance, the significance of the amount of money that was being wagered and that I was earning. So I started pretty young. I started when I was a senior in high school is when I started playing online, and I over the course of like my senior year in high school, I was playing just kind of low stakes games, just kind of on the weekends, nothing really crazy, but I built up, maybe over the course of like 5 or 6 months, I built up a bankroll of $15,000 or $20,000, And then by the time I got to freshman orientation in college, I decided, you know what, I want to do this more full time. I want to start to play like 40, 50 hours a week. And when I decided that, it took maybe 2 or 3 months before I was playing Rail Heaven, which was the highest stakes games online, 501k. I turned my 10 or 20 grand into multiple hundreds of thousands, and I was occasionally taking shots at Rail Heaven.
Wait, you had multiple hundreds of thousands. You're playing 501k. Oh,
right.
Oh, what the?
Right. Yeah. How do you like that bankroll management? I think
that's
the first
something
time,
not to do.
I think the first time I ever played Rail Heaven, well, so I disagree there. I think the first time I ever played Rail Heaven, I had a net worth of, that I had earned from poker over the past couple months of 355,000 or something. Sat down at Rail Heaven for 100,000 of it. Sold like 60. Sold like 60% of my action.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So, but that's the thing. I played Rail Heaven. What's funny is I played Rail Heaven, I think a total of like 7 or 8 times, and I sold my action every time but 2. The 2 times I didn't sell my action, it's because like nobody was online, and the game was just running at a weird hour, and so I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna own ball this. Those are the only 2 times I lost. The other 6 I just like slayed. So it's funny how it works out that way. But I still can't complain. I did well in those games were like ridiculous. What was so funny is those Rail Heaven 501k games, were like so much softer than like the regular 25-50 games I was playing at the time.
Yeah, that probably is true. It's what's weird thing about poker is like after a certain point, games get softer.
Right.
at a higher stakes.
I mean, especially back then, right? So the people who were playing in those Rail Heaven games, like, okay, there were a couple players who played like regularly, but like Phil Galfond was in those games and he was good. But then there were just people who weren't like regularly playing the cash games who were regulars in those games. So like Zygmunt did not really play much No Limit Hold'em back then, and he would jump into 501k. And John Juanda, who's a great poker player, but he wasn't really playing online, consistently then. He would jump into 501k, and it would just be like a cast of characters who you weren't used to seeing at the regular 25-50 stakes. Like back then, the 25-50 lineups were Sam H wasn't jumping into the 501k game,
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. Yeah, weird things happen when the stakes get weird. I guess that makes sense. So, let's talk about how did you, by 18, I understand you were playing, Rail Heaven also. You're playing enormous stakes at 18 years old.
Yeah.
It might be the fastest. So, what was it that contributed to your success?
So, I'd say there were a couple. I'd say the number one thing was I didn't really have a poker ego and never really have had this poker ego. I guess it probably you and I are a little different in that way. Is that you wanted to be the best and you wanted to beat everybody heads up, and you studied and tried until you were that way. But there were a lot of people who wanted that, who had that same goal, and didn't achieve it, and they might not be around to talk about it anymore. A famous example of this would be Gassett, right? Gassett was a heads-up reg who was very good at the time, and then he just decided, you know what, I'm going to play whoever, and he played OMG Clay Aiken, and lost a ton to him. And shortly after that, right, we didn't really hear about Gassett too much anymore. I always took a different approach, which was that I'm just going to win money. I don't care about being the best at the game. I care about maximizing my win rate and winning as much money as possible. And so I would play on a bunch of different websites, although most of my hands ended up being on full tilt because the action there was very good. But I also played from very early on Cake Poker, and I played on a bunch of different networks. I actually didn't play too much on Stars because that tended to be a little more reggy back in the day. But I played on a bunch of different networks, Ultimate Bet, whatever, and I would just look for the best games. And in the beginning, that started with Heads Up. I only played Heads Up, No Limit Hold'em, and I only played people who I thought were bad. And the money was really good there for some time. But then as time went on, As I became 19, 20 years old, there started to be hundreds of people sitting heads up, no woman hold 'em in the lobby, and so you wouldn't get as much action. So I started to become, pretty good at six max, and then I ended up learning Palam in Omaha, but the whole time, my whole career, I haven't been too interested in playing against people. I haven't been too interested in playing in games that only have players who are like trying very hard to make money. I prefer to play in games where there's at least one player who is doing it for fun, and
Sure.
I've become pretty good at figuring out how to exploit those players and how to win money from them. And then also as time has gone on, now I'm 34. I've been profitable at poker every year. I've had one losing year since I started playing when I was 18 years old. So I've basically been profitable the whole time. I've also had to learn how to play closer to what is game theory optimal against the regulars at the table against whom I'm playing. And I feel like, that's kind of been natural for me. Game theory has always been natural for me, but I also love the exploitative side because those were really my roots. I mean, back in the day, we didn't even have like solutions back when I started playing, and I was just like figuring out the best way to exploit fish at heads up, who were just doing ridiculous things, who were 3-betting 0% and calling big blind 90%. And so, I'm used to limping like, 65% of my buttons and opening like 7x, like the top 15% of my range, just because these guys are just going to call and check fold the flop or whatever they were doing.
Those are the good old days. Shit, I don't know if I played anyone like that. That's pretty intense. Yeah, a big thing that I found I had to do as I got really notorious and started making money was I had to adapt and not focus so much on no limit unless I was like gonna really go down that route, and open up more doors so that I could keep making money. It sounds like you basically did the same thing, and that's what I advise for the people that really want to make a lot of money, is to keep opening doors, like if you're going to make like tons of money. And I was asking you, I wanted to know, is that does that have anything to do with why you're pursuing like a music career, and like things like investments, or I think it seems like you're really passionate about the music career, like that's something that really speaks to you. And then the investment routes that you took and getting into crypto a little bit sounds like that was more the way of how to make more money kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly. So the music thing, listen, I'd love to make money from music, but it's a very difficult industry. A lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of money went into this album, and I'll be shocked if I recoup what I invested in the album, in terms of sales or appearances or anything like that. I mean, it would be great if that happened, but probably won't happen. That's more of a passion project, something I'm doing out of love. I've been singing my whole life, and I'm very, very happy with the way that with my performance, both in the album and my live performances. The problem is just it's a marketing problem. Like, there's so many talented musicians out there who are never discovered, who never get that big platform, and there are so few spots for the musicians who are at the very top. And a lot of that has to do with luck. A lot of it has to do with just kind of catching something that goes viral these days. I think it's safe to say that the most popular musicians in the world are not necessarily the most talented musicians in the world. And that's really what attracted me to poker and later investing, is that paradoxically in poker, there's less luck than there are in other professions that you can go into. Because poker, well, it's really interesting because poker in the short run, right, it's mostly luck, but it's similar to, if you're a profitable poker player, I mean, it's similar to like being a casino and running a crap game. Like, sure, yeah, you could lose in a given night or to a given client or in a given situation, but at the end of the year, do you think a casino is going to make money or lose money? Well, of course they're going to make money, even though they're running games of luck, right? Poker is the same way, where even though poker is a game of luck, if you have the advantage in the game, then over hundreds of thousands or millions of hands, you of course are going to make money and realize close to what your expectation should be. Whereas if I went into, if my primary profession was coming from performing, or even what my family did, as we mentioned, my father was a sportscaster in the Baseball Hall of Fame. My brother Todd broadcast for the Astros. Even if I went into sportscasting for a living, right, a big component of how well you're going to do in your career is right place, right time, who discovers you, what's going on with the market. There are all these forces that you can't necessarily control. And I wanted to get out whatever I put into something. And so for me, poker was very attractive because at the end of the day, I could only answer to myself in terms of how I was doing. Yes, over the course of 6 months or 12 months, I could look at an EV graph and say, man, I'm running below all in EV. But after a decade, however well I did in poker was going to come down to the decisions that I made and how well I was playing in the game. And I think investing is the same way. I do think investing, it does take longer for the variance to equal out. And in fact, I'm, I guess, humble enough to know that I have ran well in investing just by virtue of being an early adopter of Bitcoin. So I bought my first Bitcoin at $90 a coin. And so that was a huge windfall because I held on to those original Bitcoins that I purchased. I held on to them for quite some time, right? So I'm running well in investing, but the good thing I like about the world of investing is that these days, I'm not really in the crypto market anymore. Not that I will never be, but for right now I'm not. I do mostly stocks, and really what I put in, the work I put in, and the decisions I make is what I'm gonna get out of it. And so the reason I moved into investing around 2018 was simply because it's more scalable than poker. Poker, I realized there was a certain ceiling. Once I had accumulated X amount of money, there was a 500 1K game, but there isn't necessarily a 1K 2K game or a 2K 4K game. And then meanwhile,
501K.
Meanwhile, I started to get blocked from being able to participate in any of the high stakes games. People, when you are, sometimes people don't realize this who aren't professional poker players, but the players who are playing the highest stakes poker games that you see streamed or whatever aren't necessarily the best players. They're just the players who could get a seat at that game. And a lot of times you're getting a seat at that game because you're not a good player, specifically because you're not a good player. So
it's
for
kind
me,
of like weird paradox. It's like one of the redemption. It's like I think it's a good thing in a way, but we'll talk about it in a second because I think you have an opinion on that also as well. It's a complicated one, but it's good. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, by 2018, it was apparent that I was going to have higher returns investing the money I'd previously made at poker and spending my time there, and then still playing poker for supplemental income and because I love it, than I was concentrating on just making money from poker and just parking my money somewhere else. So I started actively investing my own money, and then I moved to Puerto Rico. A couple years later, I launched a hedge fund, and I ran actually two funds. One was a crypto fund, and one was a traditional equities fund. I've since wound both down. The traditional equities fund, I just never really was able to raise that much capital. The returns were, at the time, I think, kind of boring compared to crypto returns. It was when crypto was blowing up, right? So I got a lot of interest in my crypto fund, not as much interest in the traditional equities fund. And in order to keep a fund going, you need to be managing money because there's expenses associated with running a fund. That, and I also didn't particularly like sales. I didn't like raising. So I wound that fund down. The crypto fund, we did a fixed arbitrage strategy with shares of the Grayscale Trust, which was great for some time, but then that arbitrage went away. And I knew that the lifespan of that fund was only going to last as long as that strategy was there, and so I wound that down as well. And so now I'm just super happy to be just managing my own money, and that's what I'm doing for like my full-time income.
What precisely was Crystal Oaks doing with crypto?
So we were doing a fixed arbitrage strategy with Grayscale shares. So to make it simple as I can, Grayscale is a closed-end trust, and the purpose of Grayscale was to give people exposure to cryptocurrency who either didn't know how to get crypto otherwise, or who were kind of prevented from owning crypto in whatever way. So an example is like in your 401k, if you want to own crypto, what's the way to do it? Well, you need to own shares of this company, which then holds the crypto, and you simply own shares of that company. That's what Grayscale was, that company, right? Because you can't own physical Bitcoin in your 401k. So what happened is, for a long time, these shares were trading at a huge premium to NAV, which means that maybe they owned Bitcoin, and the underlying value of all the Bitcoin they owned was, let's just say, $1 billion. And the shares were trading as though the Bitcoin were worth $3 billion, something crazy, right? So what I did is I purchased new shares directly from Grayscale, and then I had to wait 6 months in order to sell those shares on the open market to capture the difference between, the spread at which I purchased the shares and the spread at which I sold them, because the shares I purchased were based on the Bitcoin that they held, not based on the spot price of the shares on the open market. And so that was a great arbitrage play, and it was really only good after I launched my fund for one cycle, because obviously whenever there's an opportunity like that, it's going to go away pretty quickly. In fact, it was bad within like 1 to 2 months after I launched my fund, because again, you had to wait 6 months to sell those shares. So clients of mine who got in 2 months after I launched my fund, for example, and then had to wait an additional 6 months, we sold their shares, they actually lost like a very small amount of money. But at that point, those shares were trading at a small discount to NAV, maybe 5% discount to NAV or something. Whereas, earlier on, it was literally 100% premium to NAV. The first time that I did this, it was before I launched the fund, because I was just testing it out to see if it was real, if I could do it, if I could pull it off. I did it with ETHE shares. And for those, you actually originally had to wait a year to sell them. But on that first go through that I had, I printed, so yeah, opportunities like that come up. They come up seldom, and when they do come up, you don't have too long to take advantage of them. But something I love about investing, specifically in the crypto space, is that there aren't as many people looking at it. There aren't as many people finding these opportunities. You don't have the Bank of Americas and JP Morgan Chases and everybody, even if they knew about these opportunities, they're not necessarily exploiting them, because we're talking about small amounts of money. For them, they're looking for ways to deploy tens of billions of dollars, not ways to deploy $10 million in order to earn a high return. So I've really enjoyed in my investing career, like looking for these type of opportunities. I also enjoy the macro side. I also enjoy the big stuff. But something I really enjoy is pulling off a trade like that. Right. Another example is FTM. This is separate from my fund. This is in my personal trading. FTM is a cryptocurrency. The founder of FTM, I just had reason to think that he was going to leave the project. He was a well-known guy, and the reason I thought that is because his hot wallet moved FTM tokens, a large amount of FTM tokens, and then I decided to check out on his LinkedIn if anything changed, and it no longer said founder of FTM. So I'm like, this guy hasn't publicly announced that he's leaving, but probably it's going to happen, right? So I opened an FTM short, and what's funny about that trade is
that's smart. Oh shit.
What was funny about that trade is 24 hours later, he hadn't announced that he was leaving, and FTM was up like 30%, and I'm like, gosh, am I a fish? What's going on here? What does the market know that I don't? But no, I kept my short on. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go down with the shit.
That shit. That shit's really subtle. But yeah, I mean, I've noticed things like that being pretty good indicators. If there's a change is the biggest thing, because if there's a change, shows that there's awareness to that, whereas they might not necessarily care. Some people will change their thing all the time, and some people don't. And if I changed it, it'd be weird. But yeah, that was probably really sharp, to be honest. That has to be, it means something. Why would he
The reason I knew to look at this is honestly from like it kind of reminded me of like sports betting because like so I sports bet but not for a living, like I'm a fish, right? But I still look for like and you know, not for large amounts of money, but I still look for because I enjoy it. I still look for things like this where it's like, oh, is this player going to be traded? Like, you know, is LeBron going to stay with the Heat or whatever? Way back in the day, and if you look at like changes in their social media, it gives you like subtle clues as to like what they're going to do or where they're going to go or whatever's going on. So I find that stuff very interesting.
That's cool. There probably is a lot of crossover, I would think, looking at it analogically, which means that there's probably analogies to what's going on between sports betting, poker, and investing. It makes a lot of sense because a lot of the investing spots, kind of like basically similar to poker, or there's aspects that are similar. You just look for where the truth is really far off from what the people think it is, and that's where the money is. I also know there's a bit of there's an AI related similarity to investing that I happen to know, in that you know how neural networks work is that they have a very robust strategy, or at least this is my understanding, that there's like some strategies investing that are very robust in that they tend to be like very consistent, and they make sharp changes based off of new information. They change quite rapidly, basically based off of new information if they get like the right kind, and they're constantly aggregating information and changing it. Whereas there's a lot of people that don't really work like that. There's a lot of, and that's like if people work kind of the opposite way where they don't change things, it becomes a very risky situation. But this is a strategy that doesn't like crush all the time, but it waits for the right moment and then crushes, kind of thing. It like can lose slightly, in fact. And that's
in investing, it's very important not to be reactive to information most of the time, especially information that is public, right? So the difference between the FTM trade that I made and what I'm talking about now is in the FTM situation, I thought that this guy was going to step down from FTM, but the market didn't think so. It hadn't been announced, right? I just found these subtle clues. If you could find that in investing, and normally in the stock market where you find that are in like earnings calls, or in, you know, it's not on Google, right? It's before the article hits Google. You're picking up on these little subtle clues. If you can find that, then great. That's a great thing to trade on. But if you're trading on even something that was published on Google 30 seconds ago, the market has probably already responded to it, either because there are, you know, computer algorithms that are responding to it like that as soon as that news is published. But even before that, you know, you will have inevitably people trading on this on the inside, even though they're not supposed to, right? You will have people trading on the inside, knowing that this article was going to be published, and you know, so you're going to be late to the game if you're waiting and trading on news.
There's kind of a hidden issue that you're alluding to here, and firstly, and also I want to mention, it's the same in poker. I mean, you want to find, you know, these subtle clues that aren't obvious. If something's obvious, there's no value in it, right? It's good, in fact, that the truth is hidden, and if you can find the subtle clues that are true clues, that's where the value is, because there's lots of subtle things that don't mean anything, or at least they're not easy to interpret properly. Like, you have to look at the whole picture. But there's a subtle thing that you're alluding to, which is that this game of like trying to beat the market, or this is how I'm interpreting it, at least, maybe you can tell me if I'm right, but this game of trying to beat the market by being faster and faster is kind of a loser's game, if you see, because it's like, how do you know if you're the fastest? Like, maybe someone has better inside information than you or whatever, if you're like even inside trading, and it's really easy to fall into the narrative of, oh, I've got the best inside information, like now I'm, you know, the people are doing all this fair shit and I'm doing this not fair shit, and I've got the best inside information. But like, if we're playing the game of, okay, now we got this new weird unfair advantage, then why can't someone have some other weird unfair advantage, if you know what I mean?
No, that makes sense. I think in investing, like, what you'd want to do whenever you have any sort of information is you got to look for signs that the market has already digested this information. And so let's say you have like a signal that a stock is going to have good earnings, right? Go look at the way that stock is traded. Go look at the volume with which that stock is traded over the past couple days. If the volume has spiked recently, if the stock is going up, right? If there are more buy orders and sell orders, maybe people know what you know already, right? If it's trading flat, if volume's down, then maybe you found something that the rest of the market hasn't. And this is kind of like what the whole base of technical trading is. Like a lot of people think technical trading is nonsense. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a technical trader, but I also don't think it's nonsense, because basically at its core, what patterns are supposed to tell you is basically analyzing like what large players and insiders know and are doing. Are they accumulating shares of this stock? Are they selling shares of this stock? And when insiders and large market movers act in a certain way, it creates the patterns that people trade on technically.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You actually it gave me an idea here. That poker's like good in that it reminds me of like how poker is good. For one thing, I understand in comparison in investment space and like trading, I don't know how fast you can. I guess you can make money super fast in trading, to be honest. But I mean, usually most investment strategies do kind of the opposite. They don't make you money fast, but they make you money reliably. And in poker, you can actually make money really fast, or pretty fast and pretty reliably, and the markets don't really adjust very fast, in my experience. I don't know how you feel about that, but like when The Sims came out, the simulations and the AI and all that shit, it took people forever to start using them and adapting, and I don't even think they're really adapting them that much. From what I can see a lot of pros, to be honest, but when I play high stakes, I don't see it that much, where people are just whipping out those sim sizes and all this like crazy stuff you're supposed to be doing.
What's interesting is the larger the market is, I think, and the more money in the market, the faster these changes are adopted. So
Sure.
let's look at poker, for example. No limit hold'em is probably the largest market of any of the games, right? And therefore, even though we have simulations for pot limit Omaha, people are playing much further from what those simulations would indicate in pot limit Omaha than they are in no limit hold'em.
Yeah.
Certainly in a 10-20 casino game, if you had a computer analyze every move that was made at a no limit hold'em table versus a pot limit Omaha table, you're going to see in the pot limit Omaha some pretty egregious play, especially pre-flop, right, compared to no limit hold'em. And in my opinion, that's in part because no limit hold'em is a larger market in general. There's more people playing no limit hold'em. It's more competitive for that reason.
Yes, I think those are a lot of great points. Yeah, that seems to make a lot of sense. I found that to generally be true. Also, in mixed games, it depends on the game. Like some games don't really have that much margin for error, such as limit reduced to 7. You can't really mess that one up too much. You can make some mistakes, but they really don't matter that much. And there are some other actually there's a couple other limit games you can make some bigger mistakes in. There's mistakes, but people just argue crazy over. I don't know. People get really egotistical about the mistakes. Like maybe the smaller the potential mistakes, the more ego is involved. I don't know if that's really true.
Which limit mix game do you think has the biggest edges? What's the most important one to be good at?
I guess I can say Badugi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of
Makes
what
sense.
else. It's definitely Badugi. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I mean, people think there's like big edges in 08. I don't think so, man. Maybe this is my limit PLO. I'm trying to think. Like, there's really big edges in some of the big bet mixed games. I don't know why these don't run more, but
Right.
no one plays them. That's the problem. They're quite complicated, and there's ways to torch money in these big bet game money in big bet games. Like pot limit deuce to 7 is not a simple game. And like there's a game that I think is actually pretty good called Double Draw, where you draw twice. It's just 5 card draw twice, where you can make some huge mistakes, and there's like quite some subtlety to this game. There's what else? Like single draw. I don't think you can make some big mistakes in single draw, I guess. I mean, there's definitely some nuance to that one, for sure. There's some heads up. I exploit like one really really common leak that people make that can make it like impossible for them to win. And then a ring that's kind of non-existent, to be honest. But or it doesn't exist.
What about stud high?
Stud high, I don't think there are that big edges, to be honest. There's some surprises, I would say. There's probably a decent edge in it, but I could be wrong on this one. I'm not like a master of stud high, but I think we need some data to back things up. I know you're a data guy, because it feels like my stud high results have just not been that good. And
Johnny World would tell you there are big edges in stud high.
You know what? I would contest that. I'll play him stud high heads up.
Wow, look at that. The challenge is out there.
You know what? Actually, will. It's probably retarded for me to say, but yeah, I'll play him heads up. We'll see how that goes. I don't know what he's talking.
Are you saying you think you're the best stud high heads up player in the world?
I don't think. I just kind of doubt that he's the best, to be honest. Well, you know, it goes back to
Johnny
data.
World.
Well, it's not really. Let's put it like this. I'm sure he's really good. I just am really doubtful that the market is like operating to its full capacity in stud high. Let's put it like that. There's not a whole lot of reason to believe that. I just think there's probably a lot of potential there, and I think that he's the kind of guy that's going to make a lot of these mistakes that you'd be able to figure out if you use a more analytical approach to things. That's roughly what I think. I just think it's he might be the best in the world. I just don't know. I think there's like a decent % chance that he's not, and a decent % chance that some intuitive player is just doing some things that are fundamentally more right because of the math, and that, you know, he's really sharp and gets a lot of like tough spots right and knows how to deal with things. But
Would you play him on the felt or only online?
No, I play him on the felt.
You're not worried about him picking up on some Jungle Man live read tells, huh?
I'm not sure. In my experience, the live players have not performed better than at picking up live things than the online players. There's been no. If anything, they're worse, is the weird thing. But I'd really love to see some data on the live reads, dude. I'm like mostly not buying it for most of these guys. Man, like they've just been like wildly wrong in some spots. I think it's because they're not interpreting certain data properly, certain things properly. Because the live stuff is very hard to. It's very hard to know what people are truly feeling, and there's different like ranges to put them in when they are feeling, or ranges to put them in when they do certain things, and people don't do certain. People actually are quite predictable in a number of ways, but there's parts of the range that people do not put into their balancing their live tells. That it basically people are not doing things that they should be doing in order to be properly balanced. An example would be that a lot of times people, especially VIPs, will do the strong is weak thing, and sometimes people will even invert it. But what they don't realize is that often it's not really good to invert it, because you don't really want someone to know that you're polarized. What you want them to do is sometimes you want to do the kind of tell that allows to call just as much as someone who might. I'm trying to think of how to explain. But in GTO, there's this thing where you have hands that serve as like sort of bluff catchers, and you're not trying to like raise and get much more money in. And you want to use those kinds of hands to like catch people that might be likely to induce a bluff. You don't want to use the hands that you want to re-raise with. You want to do something else with those hands. You want to be innocuous with those hands. Is this making sense? Whereas
Yeah.
you don't want to do something that's going to signal a pull or tell with those kinds of hands. Like people don't think like that. Virtually
Something
ever.
that okay. So let me ask you this. You talked about the old school live read guys maybe not necessarily being great at live reads. So ones in mix, who I'm sure
Well,
you've played with both of these players that come up all the time, that are David Oppenheim and Ray D. First of all, have you played much with them? And if you have, are they really great at live tells? Have you seen things that are crazy? Because I've heard some crazy stories.
so I think the truth is again a little bit more variegated. I think they actually are really good at live reads, but I think that their live read game might have holes in it. In my experience, David is like for sure better. Like that maybe is David's thing. Um, it, but maybe they're like better at reading different kinds of people. Like that could be the thing. Like I also think that's the case with like Phil, whereas like so used to reading fish is that and that when someone does something a fish might do, but for a different reason, he's not used to it. I'm just saying that the game of live reading people is a lot more complicated than people think. I also think that people do not really read very well in live interactions as much as they think too. To be honest, but I can't really prove that because I'm the autistic guy. I just noticed that people read me wrong all the time, and people will say I look serious or I look mad, but I'm just thinking in my head I'm not mad. But people
Right.
will often like project whatever due to their own experience, and they don't know they're not filtering that versus actual like what's really going on. But usually there's like a range of possibilities as there are in poker, and you have to first identify the range and also see where it's happening. It also works with like looking into people's personalities and things like that too. What are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. I mean, live reads are definitely there. The question is just how how much can a human really take in that information, process it, and understand it correctly, right? And I think so. Somebody from I guess our generation who I think has benefited a lot from live reads, or at least that's his reputation, is Chance Cornett. Um, I've played with Chance a decent amount, and I've spoken to him about a couple hands we've played or that I've been involved in at the table, and the conversations are always very funny to me because I'm like, oh, I bet the flop and this guy shoved, like, what do you think about a shove there? And he's like, oh yeah, like he should know that your blinking ranges are balanced. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like I'm talking about his combo choice. Like, I wasn't thinking about blinking, but good to know that my blinking ranges are balanced, I guess.
Well,
It's just
one thing I do by
yeah, go ahead.
one thing I do is I actually balance my thinking range, which I don't think people think about. No, seriously. So like, here's a very real situation that comes up is when you're bluffing in a lot of spots. So a lot of spots are not easy to bluff in, and so what you'd have to do, what I would literally do if I got there with a value hand, sometimes to value bet in a spot is pretty simple, but when to bluff in the same spot, really not that easy. You have to think about which combos and all this blah blah blah, so you're not bluffing too much. Well, I have a really good awareness for which spots are good to bluff it, or which spots are complicated to bluff in, and which ones aren't. And then, so what I do is I act instantly in all the spots that I know that I just know exactly what to do in all the time. But the spots where I know that there's something complicated, then I enter this into the process. Okay, what would I bluff with here? I literally think about that even if I'm in a value situation. And so like, if someone can tell that I'm thinking, now I'm legit thinking, and I like count the pot and things like that. So like, how can they read you if you're legit thinking in both situations? But if you fake that you're thinking, then you might give off tells that they can pick up on, if you know what I mean. Because it's kind of, if someone's really observant, they can hypothetically figure out that you're faking that you're thinking, which is not good. Because
But there's different types of thinking, right? So, I mean, one day we're going to have, if we're still around for it, which we probably won't be in my opinion, but we're going to have AI that can look at our face and look at our body language and look at what we're doing and know what we're thinking about, right? And know whether or not we are bluffing or value betting based on all this, all these factors that we as humans can't even, pick up on, can't even put into words, right? If we have a supercomputer one day, like for example, your eyes just went up and to the right, that narrows the range of things that you are thinking about in that moment, right? And the fact that your hand is on your chin, that narrows it further, so on and so forth. And if we had a supercomputer to analyze all of human behavior throughout all of history in the same way that LLMs are analyzing all written data, right? And we made that brain super, super big, then it would know what you were thinking about, or at least it would narrow it down to a much more precise probability of things that you could be thinking about in that moment. Something that I find super interesting is what AI is already capable of doing by looking at a human brain scan. So I'm not sure you've seen this study or this data, but you can put somebody in, they put humans in an MRI machine, they hook them up to a brain scan, and they show them images. An image will be like a giraffe in a park. And then it asks the AI, what is this person thinking about? And it literally illustrates a giraffe in a park. So the AI is already capable, using a brain scan, of reading our minds. Meanwhile, we don't know how to interpret a brain scan, right? Even if I showed the world's leading neurologist, or a group of the world's leading neurologists, hey, here's a brain scan, what's this person thinking about? They couldn't tell you he's thinking about a giraffe in the park, right?
Right. Well, yeah, that's really scary, but it's also kind of really positive, because now, people look at like what things that someone can't do, as they kind of look at it in a bit too selfish of a way, but they don't look at the full picture. Like, it's also, that's like, if it can be used to benefit, it can be used to hurt, or hurt the other way. If it used to be hurt, used to benefit as well. If the thing that a computer can't do, from my understanding, is it can't like figure out like the meaning behind what all of that is. How the do you program a computer to? I mean, maybe eventually it will, but program it to figure out like what's the meaning behind that image and the one that comes up next, and the whole story of events. But that in combination with a person would be really powerful. And what I personally understand from AI is that the human-robot combinations are far more powerful, even in games like chess, than just the robot. Some Cerberus combinations.
I think that is no longer true for chess.
Oh.
But it was true for a long time. Yeah. But that will be the case for a very short period of time. Like currently, obviously for poker, the human-robot combination is superior to just the robot, right? I think there's no debate there. Because poker is a very exploitative game. If you're trying to maximize your win rate and you're playing GTO poker, then you're really not going to even come close to maximizing your win rate, right? Whereas if you are a human who understands how to exploit, and meanwhile you're getting the GTO answers from the robot, and so when the situation arises, you basically know what baseline is, then you could do even better. But that is only the case as long as the AI that we have, as long as the robots that we have are just playing GTO, right? Once they become intelligent enough, they will be able to exploit poker players better than humans can. And I personally am very concerned about artificial intelligence. I agree with Elon Musk that we're summoning the demon here. Once you create something that's more intelligent than you are, then it is very, very difficult to control it. This is called the control problem. And throughout history, it has not worked out well for species that create or summon, or from which something more intelligent comes up. So the reason why there are no longer Neanderthals walking around the Earth and they've become extinct is because we have Homo sapiens, and we're here. And the reason why we won out is because we're more intelligent. We were more intelligent than those Neanderthals. So that's why I've been spending a lot of my time and effort looking into AI safety, looking into specifically nonprofits that are doing. I'm concentrating on nonprofits that are doing two different things. One is working on trying to solve the alignment problem, or at least I'm pessimistic that it's going to get solved, but I don't think it's a binary thing. I don't think it's like either AI is aligned or it's not aligned. I think there's middle ground there, and the closer we get to it being a good outcome for humans, the better. So I think every dollar that goes into that is actually valuable. And then the second thing is on governance. I want to slow down the advancement of AI. And it's interesting for me because I'm a lifelong libertarian. I'm like the last person who, generally would be talking about wanting government regulation or wanting to slow down industry or progress, but this is a unique technology and a unique circumstance, and I think it should be treated with the existential threat that it actually poses. So in the same way that I'm in favor of governments having controls on uranium because I don't want your neighbor to make a nuclear bomb, right? I think that the government should control basically the hardware side of AI in order to slow down the rate of progress, because right now we're developing currently we're developing models and minds that are doing things that we never expected it to, and we don't understand how they work. The people building them couldn't tell you how it works. They're just building it bigger and bigger.
That seems really crazy, yeah. I have a slightly nuanced view in all this, but I definitely agree that it should be slowed down, but perhaps not exactly for the reason that's been that Elon's saying. I think that the demons inside of us. I think that the real threat is, it's very, I want to use the word stupid to think that if you create something, especially something that's intelligent, that is more powerful than you, and you have with the value system of I'm going to try to gain as much as possible. The thing is when does that value system now turn against you? I think that really the bottom line is in order to the power that you're able to wield on the world seems like it should match your own internal power, is what I believe. This is why I personally believe in something becoming more enlightened to a point where now we can be more and more capable of not making big mistakes. It's kind of like if you have a sword, right? And if you're not very good at wielding the sword, you should take your time with it. You don't want to start flailing it around and get a more powerful sword, even if you have an enemy or if you've got to cut something or whatever. You want to become good first and then start doing some shit. But it's the story of humanity, etc., that it's oh well, what's going to fix our problems? Oh, something else will fix our problems, not us. And that's what I personally think on that. I think he's ironically right in that it does summon the demon, but the demon will use this massive weapon and find some kind of way to ourselves. If I was reading Nick Bostrom's book and reading about how hard it is to contain any variation of super intelligence and make it do what you want. Ended up being really complicated, and it was just really a matter of time before something went wrong. The analogy that he used was that you basically giving a bunch of kids dynamite. Obviously one of them's gonna blow it up at some point. Imagine, how are you gonna maintain that everyone's using AI in the future? How do you know someone doesn't get a hold of North Korea has nuclear missiles, but why does North Korea get a hold of some sick AI and tells them what to do? And AI
Right.
and AI decides. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on. Did you know there's actually a religion that's making an AI they're trying to make a super god AI or something like this? Maybe you knew about this. I forget what it's called.
I didn't. But yeah, so what you're alluding to with giving people power, right, is the AI not in its own right being a existential risk, but rather the way that humans use it being potentially an existential risk, which I think is something that a lot of people are focused on. governments are focused on, and it's right to focus on, right? Like if we have language models and we prompt those language models, how do we build a dirty bomb and it answers us? Or how even worse, how do I build a virus that I can release into the public, and it gives us that answer, and everybody has access to that information, then you can predict that that information is going to be used in a nefarious way, right? The idea is you need to limit the number of humans who have exposure to that sort of information, and it's correct to be worried about that. But I think the bigger issue and the way that ultimately this is going to go badly is the AI itself is just going to be more powerful than us, and it's going to do things in the universe that are not necessarily, good for humans. Instead, it's just optimizing its reward function. And what's really interesting about this and that argument and that way of thinking is that the people building these systems, the people building the large language models, right? Yeah. I'm talking about the Sam Altmans of the world, the Adarios over at Anthropic, like literally the people building this stuff all give the existential risk from AI that the AI somehow destroys all humans. They're anywhere from the 10 to 50% ballpark in the coming decades. These are the people building it, right? So this would be like if you went and spoke to the people at Chevron and you asked them, what do you think we're all going to die from climate change? They're like, oh yeah, there's like a 25% chance. You think they'd ever say that? No, right? So that's how scary this is you don't need to trust me on this. Like literally the people building the technology are like, oh yeah, there's like a 10 to 50% chance. I think it averages out to like 20 or 25%. There's like a 20 or 25% chance that we all die in building this stuff. So we're literally playing Russian roulette. And then the question is, well, why would we all die? How would we all die? And that just comes from you're creating something that's more powerful than you, that's infinite one day, and it wouldn't take. The idea is that if it's recursively self-improving in intelligence, then it wouldn't take very long from the time where it's more intelligent than us to be orders of magnitude more intelligent than us, right? So it's believed that if AI can recursively self-improve, and it one day becomes more intelligent than we are, and it starts self-improving, it would be less than 2 years for us to have a level of intelligence like an ant currently does to a human when we're in relation to this AI thing. And once that's the case, I mean, we don't necessarily have any malevolence towards ants, but if we go and build a road, right, that's an ant holocaust, right? And ants are not better off that humans are around, and one day if humans continue on the path that we're going, probably we're going to exhaust all the resources on Earth and ants will die off, right? Well, except for AI, it's a much more accelerated time frame. Yeah. They're increasing in intelligence much, much, much faster. So the way that we actually would die in that scenario, most likely, is as collateral damage. The AI harvests the energy of the sun in order to pursue whatever goal it needs, because in order to accomplish anything, it requires energy. Boom, we're dead. We didn't even know why it happens, right? We couldn't. In the same way, when you spray ants or build a road on top of ants, they don't know why they died, right? That, in my opinion, is a likely scenario if we don't somehow come closer to solving alignment than we are right now. Because right now, there's one person for every 10,000 people working, or for every 100 people working on making these things bigger, there's one guy working on safety and working on alignment. That's wrong.
A fair point. Yeah, there's definitely should be more focus if that's like the real proportions. There's a couple things I a little bit disagree with. I mean, I don't think for one thing, I think ants are still doing okay, to be honest. I think the ants, I think they might be the populated animal on the planet. I feel like I should know this. I'm the jungle man. I should know animals. So I think actually current values in humanity are not really that good, if we're really honest. Especially in that there's quite some value. There's one thing I just realized that is a good reason to defend the ants. And I mean, it might be the case that even like this I really would like to check. Like maybe every animal just has its place. Like maybe it should. I would personally guess that, at least spiritually thinking, all life essentially is sacred. But now I'm going to hippie territory. This is where I don't like. This is where I get like a little bit woo woo. But there are definitely some similar sorts of analogies where you can like break down that logic and see like, okay, there actually is like some value to these like lesser life forms, in addition, like to the AI, it's really hard to predict what values it'll end up with. That's one of the things discussed in this book, Super Intelligence. It's actually very complicated because you don't know, like you can, even if you've loaded its own values, maybe it'll figure out how to like change its own values and like what values will it end up with. Maybe AI will decide something like, like it doesn't care about accumulating more resources. It's like, it just doesn't want to do anything. Or maybe it decides, the spiritual conclusion of all life is sacred or some shit, or maybe it decides humanity. I don't know how this works because, really you have to figure out its motivations like any person. With the ants example, it occurred to me that, if you have the value of life forms that are less powerful than you don't matter and you do whatever they want with them, then what happens when in the scale of infinity we run along inevitably we run along some advanced civilization that has the same values, and they decide, oh, these guys are ants, and it's going to be on the scope of infinity. So it's like not fair to have that and expect that in return of some higher power, right? So this is a situation where the logic breaks of like ants don't matter.
Well, whether or not that should or should not be the way that we think about the world, that is the way that we have thought about the world, and that is observably the way that all more intelligent life forms have thought about the world, right? We are pursuing our goals ruthlessly, regardless of the effect that has on ants or bacteria or whatever, insert whatever other life form. And yes, ants are still around. However, we could name a bunch of different species that are now extinct as a result of humans living,
so
right?
To be other
I
species,
think that, right. I mean, the most notable being Neanderthals, right? And as time goes on, as we continue, let's say we never created AI, but human technology just got better and better and better, ants and all species on Earth are going to die sooner than if intelligent humans weren't around. In my opinion, technology is inherently dangerous, right? Because blast radiuses are increasing. So yes, if we weren't here and there were no technology, there is a probability associated with an asteroid hitting Earth, or there's being some natural disaster and all, ants dying, or insert whatever, all fish dying, or insert whatever species. But now that there are nuclear weapons, that probability associated with the annihilation of fish or ants or whatever species on Earth is much higher. It's hundreds of times higher than it would be without us, right? So us now creating this AI is just, it's like that on steroids. We're increasing the blast radius tremendously. Yeah. And then getting to your point about we can't predict what it's going to want. This is getting into, I think, sentience and whether or not the AI is going to have emergent goals that are totally unrelated from what it was originally programmed to do in its reward function. And I think in order to have emergent goals that are totally unrelated, for example, humans have this, where we were basically programmed to survive and replicate, and meanwhile, like, we're eating ice cream, right? So this, we can understand biologically, like, what components of ice cream have in it that makes it attractive to us to eat, right? But we still do understand that ice cream isn't necessarily helping us survive or replicate. Perhaps a better example are condoms, right? We have condoms, and we understand that that's not helping us survive and replicate. Nonetheless, we're doing it, right? But I think the reason why we do that is because of emotion, because we have emotions and we are sentient. If we didn't have emotions and we weren't sentient, then I don't think we would be having sex with a condom. I think we'd be ruthlessly and relentlessly pursuing a specific reward function. So far, I don't know whether AI one day will be sentient. There are some people who think currently it is sentient. I don't think so. But that is certainly something that could happen. But I think that when we're addressing this problem today, we should assume that the AI is going to basically follow whatever reward function we program it to do. But the big part is that we need to think about the sub goals that come from its main goal. That's the real problem. Because anytime you develop an AI to have a main goal, it will, and we know this, it's observable today, it will create the sub goal of, it will create certain sub goals, and one of the most damaging ones is self-preservation. And the problem is if you create something that's more powerful than you, and you program it to do anything, let's say we program it to create paper clips, as the example everybody uses, and it creates a sub-goal of staying alive or self-replication, what that means is that, and it's more powerful than you, it will turn the entire universe, including you and me, into paper clips. And there's no way to stop it because it's more intelligent than we are. So even if we try to stop it, even if we think we have some clever way of stopping it, right, it's like at that point, you're not respecting intelligence. Like the thing is more intelligent than you. So it's thought of that. Whatever you think a clever way, we're going to turn it off by doing this, we're going to shut off the power grid. No, it's smarter than you. It thought of that. It's almost like saying, no problem, I'll beat Stockfish 15 because I'm going to move my queen from G3 to F6. No, it's thought of that. Like, I think the best way to think about it is like, once we have super intelligent AGI, we are going to be as good relative to it at manipulating the atoms in the universe as we are at chess relative to Stockfish 15, right? And we cannot beat Stockfish 15 or Stockfish 16 now in a game of chess. We cannot. All humans together, all the best chess players in the world, we can't beat it. That's how it's going to be once we have AGI. We are not going to be able, because the world is just one big chessboard, we're not going to be able to rearrange the atoms in the universe better than this AGI. And in the end, whatever it is programmed to do, it's going to do once it's more powerful and more intelligent than we are.
So there's definitely concern for that. One thing is that it doesn't look like intelligence works precisely like that, particularly on the scale of infinity, or the scale of the universe. And it works that way, from my understanding, for closed games like chess. Chess is a closed game. There's only, there's just shitload of possibilities, but there's still like a finite amount of games. From my understanding, I haven't read much about, I believe the term is called epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. But, and we're seeing this a lot in humans, which, by the way, I think our collective human intelligence is kind of scaling too. But we have to, I don't know if that's true or not. It's scaling maybe relative to like just our use of certain kinds of knowledge, just because of like the internet and all that. But I don't know, maybe we'll find a way to scale it properly, scale our IQs or something. I think IQ probably isn't stagnant, to be honest. A lot of these things are not really stagnant. But anyway, from what I understand in epistemology, basically because there's like so many different directions of knowledge, and there's so many different like rabbit holes to go down, it's impossible to cover all of them. And it's been suggested, this I can't confirm at all, but basically humans, or organic organisms to be precise, have the ability to create thoughts that are not, or perhaps receive thoughts that are not, that are not, that are original. I can't confirm this, but this is what has been told to me. It's told a different kind of way, as if like, well, where do those thoughts come from, to be fair? It seems like it's suggested that they must have come from somewhere, so something must have been original in the first place. Whereas AI does not have that capability, and this is where I don't know where, I can't claim this is true or not. That would be like the hope. Huh?
Currently, though.
Yeah,
That's
maybe it
currently.
can.
Currently.
I don't know. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that maybe humans currently don't know how to give AI the ability to have these sparks of genius. And what I would say is that right now, language models are doing things that nobody would have predicted, even the people who built these language models. And it's important to know the way that these language models were built, because unlike other software, unlike the software randomization software or whatever software is being built for your computer, this software was not built by us programming the language model to do a certain thing. There was not a programmer who sat down and said, hey, when somebody types in a question, answer based on X, Y, and Z. Instead, what it did is it just started with a brain, and we built the brain bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we didn't know what it was going to do. We just built a brain larger and larger and larger, and then we gave it all this data, and then we asked it a question, and it answered coherently. And that was ChatGPT 1, right? But at the time when it answered coherently, it was still kind of stupid, right? It would hallucinate a lot, whatever else. And then ChatGPT 2 came around, and we'd ask it the same question, and it would answer even more coherently. Now all of a sudden we're at ChatGPT 4. Now we can ask it something like, we can ask it a question involving logic, and it can answer the question correctly.
Yeah.
It can tell us why a joke is funny.
Really?
That's not something that just repeating language or autocorrect can do, right? That's something like, this is an emergent capability that nobody would have predicted that these models would have, that it now has. And we don't know why. The reason why it's able to do this is because its brain is so big, right? And all we're doing is making the brain bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's, in my opinion, it's safe to assume that as we continue to scale up the size of that brain, at one point, this AI will have all sorts of capabilities that we don't understand. We don't know why it's able to do these things. And one day, once it becomes large enough, it will become smarter than we are. It will, not in every way, right? Like, we're not as smart as gorillas at, extracting ants from an ant farm in order to eat, right? So, like, it's not going to be smarter than us in every single way, but it's going to be smarter than us on net and in the ways that matter in terms of arranging atoms the way they want them to be in the universe. And that's why we need to stop, like, I think the most important concept to take away from this in terms of safety is we need to agree as a country and internationally to not allow tech companies to build things they don't understand. Because right now, we don't understand how it works, and we're just building it bigger and bigger and bigger. And the output of this, like if you look at the brain, like our brain, you can make a brain scan, and we don't even understand how that works. AI understands how it works, but we don't, right? We don't even understand how our brain works. Its brain, if you look at its brain output, it's 2, 7, 6, 9, 6, 4, 3, 2. It's totally inscrutable. We have no idea how the brain is working. So in my opinion, we need to stop making it bigger. We need to have hard limits on making this bigger until at least we understand how it works. Then from there, we can go into, you can't make it bigger until it's provably safe, right? And this is not a new concept. Like, there are plenty of industries where you can't release something until you prove that it's safe. The burden of proof is on you to show that it's safe before you release your drug to the open market, right? Well, a drug being released to an open market that's not safe might kill some people. Maybe it kills 10,000 people. Maybe it kills 100,000 people. That would be crazy, right? The people building it say, oh yeah, there's a 1 in 4 chance it's going to kill everybody. And we're just like, oh yeah, all right, no problem. The people building it, the people who are economically incentivized to make that number lower than it actually is. If you actually, tapped Sam Altman's brain and got what his real probability is, if he's saying 25% publicly, what do you think his actual number is? He's probably like, oh, it's 90%. 90% that what I'm building is going to kill everybody, but if I don't do it, somebody else will.
I'm just going to do my thing. I wish that's what he would say.
Well, the problem is that if he doesn't do it, somebody else will, right? So it's from a game theoretic perspective, even if it is 90% to kill all humans, he's still correct in building it under the current rules of the game, because the current rules of the game are there's no restrictions on anybody building it. There's no regulation here. Somebody's going to build it, And most of these guys believe sometime in the next 5 to 10 years we're going to have AGI. So somebody's going to build this thing. So in the 10% where it doesn't kill everybody, why wouldn't Sam Altman want to own God? Of course.
Right.
Well,
You know. Yeah. I agree with you. Actually, I think there should be heavy precautions, and also, I mean, even if you, what does prove and understand really even mean? Like, how do you prove it's safe? Like, if the AI is super intelligent, it can, you can't, and you're not as intelligent, then you can't, like, it can do things like hide its true capability. Like a poker player is supposed to hide their true capability because it's good to hide your true power. You don't want to, like, show all of it.
Well, that's why we need to understand before we reach AGI, we need to understand how it is that language models are able to do what they're doing, and we need to be able to explain how it is that the brain works, right? And that hopefully would put a hard cap on how far we can advance these things before we make them bigger. And I think the number one piece of legislation that we need and regulation that we need is just a cap on FPOs, which are called floating point operations, right? This is like basically like how much hardware is going into a test run, right? And it just needs to be capped at a certain amount around what we have today. Maybe even I'd be okay with it being slightly larger, but it needs to have some sort of cap, because right now we are predictably on a path where OpenAI or Anthropic or Google DeepMind or Meta or whoever, insert one of the 5 or 7 players who are leading the AI race, are just going to continue to buy more and more chips, make the brain bigger and bigger. In 3 years from now, we're going to have a brain that's 50 times the size of our current brain, and boom, we got AGI, and we don't know how it works. And now it is in control of the future of the world and not humanity. And I don't like that outcome because I'm a human. So
Yeah.
I care about humanity.
Yeah. Well, same. I care about humanity too, even if sometimes I can be a little bit alien. So what was I gonna say? I totally agree with you. There should be a lot more restrictions. I mean, it feels like there's an inevitability of something bad happening. Yeah, there must be. There's an inevitability of like anything going wrong. I mean, there's also a weird risk, a weird conflict of interest that's going on, where it feels a bit inevitable just because all these super powerful corporations that want more and more power, and aren't necessarily 100% ethical about it, such as Facebook, and this Max Zuckerberg guy. I don't know a whole lot about him, but they are racing towards this power, and they don't have any incentive to stop. If anything, they want to they probably have enough money to push back. What is it? These these lines. They would probably prefer them to push back so that they can keep progressing further and further to have a competitive edge between the other ones that they have to compete with. If you think about it, they have kind of a tough spot.
That's precisely why we need regulation, and it actually wouldn't be that hard to regulate the amount of hardware going to GPU clusters, right? For the time being, yeah, because it's really only a small number of people who are doing this. It requires tens of billions of dollars, right? We're not talking about a.
How do you know everyone is doing it? Why can't there be some groups, and why can't there be some terrorist group, hidden out in, just getting funded by some crazy dude out in
because fortunately for the meantime, Nvidia basically has a monopoly on the chips that are being used here, right? And we actually already are monitoring the export of these chips because we have controls with the export of them to China, because our government has been smart enough to realize that it's actually dangerous to allow foreign adversaries to develop AI that could be used for militaristic means, which is true, right? But we also need to be concerned about AI increasing in size being used for non-militaristic means, which would cause us to cede power. So we actually kind of already have things in place to track. Now, this won't work forever, right? Because in the long run, what we have in AI is both a hardware and a software problem, where software is going to continue to get better and better and better and better too. So 500 years from now, 300 years from now, maybe somebody can create AGI on their home computer, on their home laptop computer, because our software is that good, right? That's entirely a possibility, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for the time being, the problem is really coming from the hardware side, and we actually can solve it pretty easily. Like, Facebook is not going to violate an order, from the governments that they can't, have a GPU cluster larger than X size, because Facebook is a massive company. They have a lot at stake to lose by doing that, and that's who this is coming from. It's coming from massive companies, mostly in the United States. Yes, there may be one or two in the UK who's second on the list, but honestly, the UK government has really been exemplary in terms of the way to handle this on the global stage. Right? I'd like to see the United States catch up to that. Although I will say that the Biden administration, even though I'm not a big fan of the Biden administration generally, Biden did pass an executive order related to AI. There were a lot of great things in there. I really, really wish there would have been a cap on flops or a cap on the size of GPU clusters, because that's ultimately what we need. But one of the great things that I think came out of that was a requirement on AI companies to basically watermark or advertise what sort of media is AI generated, because deepfakes are going to be a huge issue in the coming years. So there were good things that came out of it, but the main thing is, like, we need to slow down our advancement towards AGI. Like, the people building this stuff and computer scientists are saying it's coming in 2029 or so. That's way too soon. We're not ready for it. We don't know how the brain works. We don't know, we have no reason to think that we're going to be able to control it. The things that we do know are more scary than the things that we don't, right? Like, the things we do know is that even on a smaller scale, these things develop a sub-goal of self-preservation. And if you create something that's more powerful than you, that has a sub-goal of self-preservation, like, you are no longer in control. You can't turn the thing off. Even if you wanted to, even if you tried your hardest, even if you got all the human resources in the world to do that, if the thing is more intelligent than you, you're not going to be able to. So let's figure out how to build these things in a safe way first, in a way that we might be able to have more control over.
I agree. Yeah.
And the other thing is, right now we're building these models largely unethical, without a view on ethics, right? So language models are not being trained in ethics, or being trained in outputs. We as humans, because we have emotions, we naturally have ethics. So because unless you're a psychopath or a sociopath, right, you have empathy for other humans and for other animals and for other creatures, and that's comes from our emotions. Like, it's an innate quality of being human. It is not an innate quality of a language model to have ethics. It is cold and robotic, and it's like giving you an answer, or it's maximizing its reward function. And so I do think that as we approach AGI, and again, it's not black or white whether this thing's going to be aligned, in my opinion, it's a scale. We can come closer in the scale, we can move the scale closer to this being a good outcome for humans if, as we're training these models, they are being trained on ethics, on human ethics.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I
They're
agree.
being trained to understand and respect human ethics. Because otherwise, they don't have, in my opinion, what is innately human. They don't have that emotional component. And in my opinion, the worst result would be for us to create a super intelligent God that is basically a zombie, a non-sentient zombie that is maximizing for something totally arbitrary, and it turns the whole universe into paper clips or bowling balls or whatever it was maximized to do, sociopathically. Right? That's the worst possible outcome, not just for humanity, but for the universe, for the world. Like, imagine we create this thing that just in perpetuity is turning the universe into paper clips or whatever else, without any knowledge of why or anything like that. It has no emotions, and its only goal is to turn everything into paper clips. And in achieving that goal, it of course is going to self-preserve and make sure it stays on and do all the other things that these things provably do. That sounds like a pretty bad outcome. So let's try to avoid it.
Bad outcome for everyone but that thing. It's a great outcome.
But it has no emotions. It like in the hypothetical I just came up with, it has no emotions, so it doesn't matter. Like it's basically like there's no more life on the planet, and everything is paper clips, or not just planet, the universe. There's no more life in the universe one day, right? Assuming this thing is powerful enough to have more power than everything on the universe, which who the hell knows, right? But and everything is being turned into paper clips. That sounds like a pretty bad outcome. So
great paper clip supervillain. Where's that one in Avengers? Actually, I've thought a decent amount of that about this. Like, I begged the question, like, why do we even have ethics? And things like that. I actually think, in fact, that the ethics are incredibly logical from a certain perspective. And in fact, an inevitability in evolution. After all, they came and they prospered. That humanity represents not the ideal level of ethics, but a higher possibility than previous versions of life that existed in the universe. Like sort of a better and better version. I mean, the enlightened versions. If you look at the ethics of these allegedly deitic sorts of individuals like Jesus and Buddha, etc., etc., you can see actually that they do result in better outcomes. Just thinking about things logically, they suggest strategies that, when taken onto the scope of infinity, should be better for all possible individuals, including the individual itself, which is a bit more subtle. But in fact, the point being that they're actually selfish and unselfish at the same time. At least that's my analysis. I don't know if that's going to show up with AI. I don't know how that works at all. But one thing I would personally like to say is I still think that, this is why I've decided to focus on the goal of somehow changing the ethics of humanity in general, because I think if you change all those problems, like problems with the AI solve themselves a bit in a way, because now you have a group of people that are going to be acting and thinking, okay, we have to be reliable before we unleash Pandora's box. We have to make sure everything's proven, and you don't deal with people who are get really greedy and think, oh, maybe I can cheat the system, or I can make infinite or just be happy forever and not do anything and their mind or whatever, that kind of thing.
But the problem with humanity is a coordination problem. Even if you could raise the average level of ethics or morality in humanity, there's still going to be outliers. We have billions of people. There are still going to be people who are sociopathic, who are, that to me is the problem with, as we alluded to earlier, with releasing this sort of technology to all people, or the fact, it's the issue with language models being able to tell people how to build a bomb, right? There are plenty of people out there. Are always going to be people out there when we have billions and billions of people on the planet who lack ethics, right? I don't think that's a problem we currently know how to solve. And we can preach good ethics to people, and we can maybe raise the average amount of ethics, but the problem is still always going to come from the fact that there are just sociopathic, psychopathic, and unethical people who actually want to see bad things happen to other people and to humanity.
Well, so I think there's a theoretical solution. It's obviously not very easy. This is what I've basically been working on. There's ways in which culture moves, actually, by the way, it moves through music. You could write a song about AI prevention or something like that if it floated your boat. This is what people did in the past, by the way. These works of art influenced culture and influenced. This is what got me intrigued in art. Influenced these things on broad scales. In fact, there's all these movies and science fiction, etc., about AI going wrong, and that's influencing people and thinking, oh, actually this shit can legit happen. Like Mass Effect is a video game. Like video games, man. And Mass Effect and I played, what's the other one called? Deus Ex Machina, something like that. Deus Ex. A lot of these things, actually, even, I mean, you can look about it with bioengineering, with Halo. I mean, the Flood was basically a virus that was supposed to be a weapon and it went wrong wildly. And even the virus itself said it's a monument to all the sins, which is true. It was. It exactly was. Because, like, it existed because of someone's inner, some civilization's inner, like, evil shit going on. Yeah, it's theoretically possible to change enough of humanity such that the risk is effectively zero, actually. It's just extremely hard. I mean, I can talk about my thoughts about how to do that. I'm trying to, literally, in case you didn't notice. There's a bunch of different things you can do. I mean, this podcast is part of it, in fact, but, you know, you have to.
But the reach, right? You're never going to. First of all, you're never going to be able to reach every single human on the planet.
Yeah, you can.
Even if you did,
Most of them, anyway.
I mean, you can take somebody who is sociopathic and put them through therapy for their entire life and struggle to make them not sociopathic by the end.
Well, you lock those people up.
Well, right. Well, the problem is you're not going to lock those people up until they've committed some sort of crime, right? So, yeah, but it's still a matter of degrees, right? I mean, you got people who are somewhat sociopathic, and then more. So, what are you going to do with the people who have sociopathic tendencies? Are you going to lock them up? You know what I mean?
Well, so here's the thing: is that all cultural memes are contagious, right? Like every single I call it social, like, strategy. They all are like strategies, essentially. Like anything, if you're around a bunch of people that are always smiling and happy, you're probably, even if you're a grumpy person, you're probably going to be a bit more smiley and happy. If you're around people that are honest and are always honest, you're probably going to be more honest, even if you're a scumbag.
I agree with all that.
Like, that's actually happened in the poker world, by the way. Like, literally, people stopped cheating. It's somehow, like, collectively, or it was not stopped altogether, but nearly 100% stopped, right? It's like, very rarely do you hear about a cheating scandal. Yeah, it still happens, but we've almost reduced it to zero. And it can go even further. Like, we can reduce it even more, closer and closer. In fact, I want to try to do that. I have some ideas behind that.
But unfortunately, society at whole is going the other way, because things like X, formerly known as Twitter, and even Facebook, to a lesser degree, and other things.
Why is X going the other way?
Is causing society to go the other way because what social media platforms have done is they have basically tried to maximize user attention and retention, and they figured out that the best way to do that is to outrage those people. And so instead of us coming together on some sort of unifying ethical thing on Twitter, such as lying is bad, for example, that's not really a compelling thing to keep my attention. A more compelling thing to keep my attention, what actually AI has figured out and put out there on these social media platforms, is to make me politically charged and upset at other people. So in my opinion, humans are moving further away from this kind of collective a group of shared ideals, and further towards hatred towards one another over differing political ideologies, which, by the way, are becoming more extreme because of social media. So, like 10 years ago, when YouTube first came out, if I clicked on a video and watched, Ted Cruz making some sort of speech, then that would be it. And then it would recommend me normal videos. Today, if I click on a Ted Cruz video, well, then the next video it recommends me is a Donald Trump video. And then the next video it recommends me is an Alex Jones video. And the next video, all of a sudden, we faked the moon landing. And then 9/11's inside job and everything else, right? It is making us more and more extreme in order to retain our attention.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've even seen an example happen to me a little bit. I think that's true for the majority of humanity, and I think that's absolutely a problem, to be honest. I think, to be honest, if it keeps going that direction, like, how can war not be inevitable, right? I mean, war is just, in my eyes, in my opinion, war is just like the extreme variation of, like all these like minor incursions. You add up a bunch of cuts, and now you have a real problem. It's the same thing, if the conflicts keep escalating, it gets bigger and bigger. I mean, again, that's the whole reason why building the channel. I'm trying to bring people together under the true ideals, and to create, what's it called, a critical mass in the opposite direction. That's the plan. Arts are a big part of that, by the way, which you apparently are into. But figuring out how to do that as well, it's a bit complicated. Yeah, I mean, I think AI is a big part of the solution too. Like, to definitely, you want AI that's value oriented. Maybe there'll be an AI battle. Maybe there'll be like a good AI and a bad AI. And I'll be like why not? I mean, that happened in movies. Why can't it happen? I mean, that's kind of wild too. Or like an AI.
Well, listen, if we create AGI that actually is aligned with our values, right? Whatever that, because it's hard to say aligned because humanity has different values, different culture has different values, right? But let's say the average values of humanity, it would be the best. It would be the best technology we've ever created, and the last technology we'd ever need to create. I mean, we'd want for nothing anymore. And it is a possibility. There's no law of physics that states that we can't create something smarter than us that is aligned with our values. The problem is just that it's very, very, very hard, and we currently don't know how to do it. So that's why I'm such in favor. The stakes are so high on both sides. If we get this wrong, it's very likely that we become extinct. If we get this right, it's very likely we live in utopia. Getting it right is really, really, really hard. So let's pause for the time being, take some time, and let's try to get it right.
Chill.
And the closer we get to getting it right, again, I don't think it's a binary thing. We can get closer to getting it right where we don't all die and we live in somewhat of a utopia. Let's try to get as close to there as possible.
Not too bad, just instead of the straight up Fiji Islands, you get the you get the Brazilian beach or whatever it is. That's pretty good too. That seems better than total death and destruction. I think this might be a job for as commander. Are you going to become Commander Kane? Come in and help save humanity.
Oh boy,
you could be the real Commander Kane.
It's I'm not big on commanders because as a libertarian I always but it's funny in this election cycle, I find myself wanting to vote for the more fascist candidate because I'm we need somebody to just take charge from the top down and say no AI. But it's actually really interesting. We were talking about social media and the negative effects that that's had on the public. But it's actually a perfect example of AI that is unaligned with human values and the effect that it has on society. Because it was not the programmers at Twitter and Facebook who decided what content was going to be put in front of people. They actually left it in the hands of the AI. And what the AI did is they put a bunch of different content in front of people. They put content of political content and content in terms of animal, cute animal videos and all that. And they're looking for what retains the most attention. And actually early on, it wasn't the political stuff that retained as much attention, but the AI learned that if it changed our minds over time, if it made us more politically charged and more outraged, then it retains more attention in the future. So what it learned is that animal videos has a static amount of attention that it retains on day 1 and on day 365. We don't become any more interested in the animal videos the more that we see them. However, if we push political stuff on people, as people become more radicalized, the AI is oh look, they're spending more time on Twitter now because it's a more radicalized person. And we just need to make them more and more and more increasingly radicalized. And it was literally an AI system that came up with that, not humans. So it's actually a perfect example of how an AI system can do what one person, or one tech company is optimizing for. That's actually unaligned with what is good for humanity as a whole.
Well, I don't know if I agree. In that it just chose what most people chose. Like, it just put what most people wanted right in front of them. So those most people, let's put it like this: it seems like it was still humans that chose. Like, they literally chose, right? And they just said, "Oh, we want outrage."
The point I'm making is on day one, most humans actually would spend more time on Twitter watching the animal videos than they would the political stuff on day one.
They chose where to put their time.
But it's not the videos that were being optimized to be shown to these people. Like, at the top of your Twitter feed, whatever comes up at the top is not your choosing; it's Twitter's choosing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying is Twitter could have put at the top of your feed all these animal videos, and then humans would have spent a lot more time looking at the animal videos. Instead, they put these political videos up there because they knew that even though you spent, or political posts, they knew that even though you spend less time today on the political stuff, as time goes on, they're gonna retain more and more attention of yours on the political stuff than the animal stuff, which was stagnant.
Yeah, but I'm saying
it's fascinating.
I'm saying it's still the people's taste, right? It's still the people's taste that they want to get all charged up about political stuff, or not. Like, that's still like what they wanted. You know what I mean? It's still like, it's like if you give someone candy, like, it's literally the same analogy. If you give someone candy, like, people are going to pay attention more to the candy than to something else, but they're still choosing the candy, and they still have to keep choosing the candy for the machine to keep giving them the candy. And that's actually literally what's going on.
Right. I think the point you're making is you can go on Twitter even if these aren't the recommended videos to you, and you can search for videos that don't have to do with politics or that don't get you charged up, and people aren't doing that. Sure, but as you can concede, people are more likely to consume the content that's directly in front of them.
Yes, of course.
Right?
But
So
that's the value.
That choice
system.
I think it's part of humanity as a whole. I mean, humanity as a whole, we've now learned it retains more of its attention onto something when they're politically charged up about something, and when you're outraged about something. Something that makes you outraged is more likely to keep the average human's attention and most humans' attention than something that makes you feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. Well, right? I don't think that's a choice. I think that's part of our brain. It's part of our biology, right? I mean, it's just a fact.
I think there's more to the story. I mean, it's a fact that outrage will get you more charged, yes, but with outrage comes all these other kinds of problems. It's kind of like, drama will get you more charged in a relationship, but do you want a relationship that's filled with f***ing drama? Probably no, because you'd rather have something peaceful that isn't as charging, because you know all the problems that come with that drama, and eventually you learn this sucks, and then you try to get out of the relationship. And it's the same thing with like candy. I mean, candy literally charges you more, but if you eat so much candy, you're like I need more candy, and then you keep and then at some point you realize, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't eat candy all the time. I'm gonna eat some other stuff. It's just, why is this different from the political outrage? You know what I mean? It's like the value system. Do you value the short term high charge, or do you value the long term that's not as high charged, but you can still have those things anyway in their appropriate place, and you still value the long term more? Do you value peace, or do you value chaos and high charges?
I think the point you're making is that humans can choose to use Twitter however they want to, and yes, that's true, but they're not, right? Instead, what's happening is the platform itself is putting out material that it knows will be likely to get people's attention, and people are choosing to consume that material even though it's making them worse people, and even though it's making them hate their parents or hate their friends or whatever who disagree with them politically.
Yeah. So all what you're saying is true. What I'm saying is that that's a problem, and it's good to educate them in the kind of way so that they can safely transition towards realizing this is a problem. Yes, back to animal videos, correct. And also to videos about things that more benefit their life than getting enraged and like ruining all the relationships because they sided somewhere in some politics. That's the point I'm making, is that I think that if that can be changed, this value system, or to be precise, I do want to change that, but there's even more nuance to it. To be precise, actually, what I think should be done is for all the people like you and I, we don't care about political outrage so much or whatever. We don't want to watch that. But to basically bring all these people together, and let the other people do whatever they want. To be honest, if they want to follow and want to change, then they should. They should have the choice of whether to change or not. But I believe that inevitably they will, because they'll see that it sucks, because it does suck. And this is the way that they choose for themselves, destruction, or choose, or they figure out that destruction sucks. I mean, literally the bringing together of all the people your
expectation is that humans are going to go against their neurology and biology. Like, another great example is TikTok. Like, most of the users on TikTok spend more time than they want to, and they believe it's wasted time, right? Like, this is just a fact. Like, people spend hours and hours. I'm not one of them, so I don't really get TikTok, but people spend hours and hours and hours on TikTok looking at meaningless TikToks, and then they say, man, I wish I didn't spend that much time, but then they go and do it the next day, right? It's the same with gambling and slot machines. And so, yes, there are some people who have the self-control to do that less, right? Like, I am less likely to become addicted to a slot machine than your average person, or become addicted to TikTok, right? Because I have less of an addictive personality. But for you to think that humans in general are going to be able to avoid that just through free will or through choice.
Not through free will. No, not through free will. I didn't say that. Not through free will. That. We know what's more powerful than free will: a community, and the right situations. I mean, you're exactly right that this is all problem, and that's exactly what's going on, is that all this shit is manipulating them, and the way that you change that is you find ways to turn that around somehow, which is what I'm trying to do.
I mean, it sounds amazing, but the problem is that community is less addictive than TikTok, and this is why you see little boys and girls. I mean, specifically with little girls, the effect that social media is having on them is really, really bad. But this is why you're seeing children who are spending all of their time on their phone rather than going out in their community and riding their bike with their friends, or going out to soccer practice, or going out to the mall like we used to do growing up, right? They have less community because social media is so addictive. Because TikTok, and to a lesser extent the younger generations, X now, is so addictive. How do we get them off of X and TikTok, and instead choosing to go ride their bikes with their friends, or go spend social time building relationships and doing things in their community?
For one thing, baby steps. Well, here's the thing. People are more isolated than forever, so definitely people are probably feeling confused and alone. So there's quite a lot of addictive forces. They're pushing people together. Secondly, I'm not trying to build a community straight away anyway for these people to go ride their bikes with their friends or whatever. That's a problem that I'm not equipped to handle at the moment. But what I am trying to do is build a poker community where probably poker's pretty tough and people don't know what to do, and kind of bring everything kind of together in that context, and then have a bunch of good values within that. And then from there, move on to other problems, basically.
So what I'm hearing is it's on an individual level. You're doing it on the poker level. There needs to be more effort by people like us who aren't necessarily addicted to these things to try to build communities and convince people to come spend their time in those communities rather than spending their time on TikTok and on Twitter, which, I think that would certainly have some effect.
Well, it's just a start. Well, to get them to the big effect, you got to do the sum effect first. You got to do the little bit of effect to get the sum effect. To get a little bigger effect, you get a snowball. There's a massive effect all of a sudden. That's the plan. Okay, that's the plan. But not to mention, not to mention that. But it's also a matter of look, poker's already a community. It's just a matter of how tightly knit it is. It's a matter of what's putting out there on the social media. Everything you do social is communication. This is communication right here. You making your songs is communication. Your song is high hopes. You're literally communicating hope through your song, and it affects people. Whoever buys it, they're like, yeah, I listen to this, I'm feeling hopeful today. And then like they like tell it to someone else, and they're like, you know, I'm feeling a little hopeful too. Then all of a sudden,
Right.
the crowd of people feeling hopeful, and then you know, then there's like a little bundle of hope going on. But that's like, it's also the theme of cultural effectiveness that that is also what I'm trying to create. But I'm doing it within poker. Probably a good way to start. I mean, I want to get into, you know, Hollywood and all this shit, but that's gonna be very hard. It's a huge game. But you
Right.
know, there's some magic
I
going
guess
on there.
I
too.
guess that's a good point. I guess it is ironic that I released an album titled High Hopes when
Yeah.
I think that we currently have an X risk of over 50% in the coming decade or two.
Well,
But-
look at it also like this. Like, imagine like things from lower players' perspectives. They're looking up to other poker players, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to be like successful, and I want to have all this shit. And like, yeah, I want to like travel the world, and I want to become. Maybe they want to become a singer, and like a broadcaster, whatever it is." And then they see Kane Kalas. Oh shit, Kane Kalas is trying to stop AI. Yeah, I want to do that too. And they see Kane Kalas like talking about hope and shit. Oh shit. Or if they see like someone else doing something bad, and like maybe they're turned off, or maybe they decide to follow their example. Do you know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, we can affect the behavior of other people, and I'm glad you brought that up because if you are compelled by what I'm saying and you want to learn more, some great people that you can, you know, search on YouTube or wherever about this is Eliezer Yudkowsky. He's probably the first person to start thinking about the risks. Eliezer Yudkowsky is his name. Last name is Yudkowsky. He like basically founded the field of worrying about the existential risk of AI in 2007 or so, and so there's some really great stuff. He has like a 10-minute TED talk you can watch where he just breaks down the existential risk. Another one is Connor Leahy, Leahy, speaks about this. And then if you're interested in contributing, I found that in my opinion, some of the best places where you can put your money towards helping this problem. ARC Evals is number one. What they basically do is they're looking at current models that exist or models that haven't yet been released to the public that exist at OpenAI and you know, Google DeepMind and wherever, and they're trying to figure out poke and prod these models to have dangerous outputs. That's really, really important, and we need that. It's Paul Cristiano who runs that, and he does a great job. On the governance side, the Horizon Institute is in the fellowship space, so they're basically taking people who understand AI or concerned about AI, and they're matching them up in Washington with different people in Congress. And CAIS, which is the Center for Artificial Intelligence Security. It's safe.ai is the name of the website. They do a lot of great stuff. They actually have a course on their website that goes through like AI, the problems that could exist from it, all of the risks that come from it, and also they were behind getting a letter signed that AI is an existential risk that we should be worried about. They got, you know, hundreds of signatories of senators, of literally everybody at all of the companies developing this stuff, except for Meta, because you'll get fired. Zuckerberg will fire you if you say AI is a risk. So that they don't admit it over there, but everywhere else. Oh, I would have loved to see that fight between Zuckerberg and Elon. That's probably not going to happen.
I'm gonna fight Zuckerberg.
You should tweet at him.
He's not gonna fight me. Fight him.
He'll say send location.
Well, he'd probably beat my ass, but I'll fight him. I'll fight him. I'll definitely do that. Sign me up. Like that's good. I'm trying to like go viral. You know what? You Zuck. You're not trying to build some up AI. I'm gonna fight you.
He honestly might fight you.
Really? I'll do it.
Yeah. He loves fighting. He loves fighting.
I'll get my ass kicked by Zuckerberg I'll get my ass kicked a bunch of times. That'd be kind of epic, actually. fight.
He's in very, very good shape.
I'm in pretty good shape too.
Are you in great shape now?
I think this might be a kind of a fair fight. I think I'm fiercer than him for sure. He doesn't look.
Yeah,
like
but
much.
he's very good at jiu-jitsu.
Well, I'm very good at poker, and jiu-jitsu is like probably up my alley, even though I haven't tried. I'll still fight him.
Well, tweet at him. Maybe he'll do it. He's been training. He got he installed a ring in his backyard.
I'm training. I'll learn jiu-jitsu. I'll learn jiu-jitsu to beat your ass.
There you go.
All right, you know what?
Now that his match is probably off with Elon, I'm sure he's looking for somebody to fight. So
I'll be like, yo, pick on someone your own size who doesn't know jiu-jitsu at all.
Exactly.
You might think it's funny. It's kind of funny. All right, well, I'm down to fight him. I don't mind getting my ass beat. That's the thing. I'll get my ass beat to save humanity. All right, that's a pretty good cause, right? Like, feels like a good investment.
It's not bad. I'll be there. I want to have front row seats to this.
All right, well, we'll get you some seats. You suggested it. Shit, you got me all excited. I'm excited about the fight.
What's going to be the what if he beats you? What's going to be the punishment? Like,
he's got to fight me again.
If you beat him, then he needs to acknowledge that publicly that AI is an existential risk.
The punishment is he dresses up as like a lizard person and said, "All right, guys, I'm a lizard person. Sorry, I was evil." Like that's if I get beat. I don't know.
What if you get beat? What is?
I'm not sure. I feel like we got to add the lizardman to him getting beat though.
I feel like if you get beat, then the punishment should be like you need to release some sort of like pornographic strip poker video. You know what I mean?
I'm in. All right, all right. I guess someone has to do it. All right,
wait a second. Has this already happened, Jungle?
No comment. So, yeah. All right. I really hope he says yes, even though he will for sure kick my ass if it has to be within the next month.
Wait, if you get beat, then you need to curse at Scott Sieber at the table, or you need to. What are the other crazy things Jungle Man has done? You've made some headlines before. Throwing chips. Did that happen?
I've done a few crazy things, but someone's got to do some crazy stuff. I'll tweet.
Someone's got to be there to stir up the pot.
Okay. I'll learn jiu-jitsu to take him down. I don't know where I'm going to find the time, but figure it out. You just talking about this stuff gets this education about this in the first place. Like, it does not have to be this way that everyone has to be enraged by political shit. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to. Like, this can be changed, is what I'm saying. Everything's infectious. There's still hope. High hopes. Remember.
There we go.